are locked and loaded for the propaganda war. Second hour of this special morning edition of Deadline Live gets underway. I'm Jack Blood, your radio gun. You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com. On the program this morning, the reason why we have called this special radio session for you this morning on this network is the breaking news story. I call it breaking. It's a few months old. This has not been reported by one mainstream media outlet here in this country. It is an international news story, to put it lightly. The German court had ruled here just a few months ago that electronic voting was unconstitutional. Now, some of you might ask, where did they get that constitution? We're going to answer questions like that. What bearing the participation with the Lisbon Treaty and the European Union might have on the constitutionality of electronic voting in Germany. But so far, it appears to us that the Germans are ahead of us on this issue as hard as we have tried. I have two experts in studio with us today, one on the line. Kathleen Wynne is joining us from handcountedpaperballots.org, and Bev Harris, who's been on our program many times, as you know, blackboxvoting.org. And then participating from Germany is physicist Ulrich Wiesner. Dr. Wiesner, along with his father, I'll go with Joachim Wiesner. You can correct me on that, Ulrich. Are the father and son team that opposed this technology, that fought this war, if you want to call it that, in Germany, and were the spearheads for this particular decision, which I have to assume is accepted widely by the people in Germany, maybe not so much by the leaders. I think we're going to do a longer segment here coming up, but just for the sake of argument, we'll move forward. Kathleen, there's so many questions to ask here because we want to be very clear on what just happened and, if possible, how we can replicate it. Kathleen?
Well, I think Dr. Wiesner had the advantage we don't have in the States with regard to filing a lawsuit, because citizens in our country don't have the standing that would give us the credibility or the ability to complain to our courts. I know that we've tried that in the past, and they have been summarily dismissed. Is that your read on it, Bev?
Yeah, generally speaking, citizens in the U.S. are not considered a party that has standing to sue regarding election outcomes.
So that's the advantage he had, and plus the court was very receptive to supporting the law, the constitutionality, which we would think, since our constitutions are similar in that regard, they're supposed to protect our constitutional rights here. And in fact, they are making them secret and controlling them, keeping them out of the hands of the people. So Dr. Ulrich had that advantage that we don't have. And is Germany aware of the issues or difficulties we've been having here, Dr. Ulrich, in dealing with trying to get our country to do what your court did?
Yeah, we had some media coverage on e-voting in the U.S., but obviously I don't understand the legal details of what would be required to do something similar in America.
There are some situations in some states that have some possibilities. For example, there are states that allow, that do give citizens some standing. Florida, if they can prove that there may have been a different outcome, citizens can launch a lawsuit. But it is tough because our judges are elected on the same machines, and it's getting more difficult. I think one of the important things we need to really work on is the media, and so that the public is aware of the issues, because that'll give it a little bit more power if and when we get to court.
Except for, as you pointed out earlier, Bev, the same people that own the media are the same people that own the voting machines, and they're all in bed together, as we've understood here.
Well, there's always radio, isn't there? Radio has so many outlets. There's, 10,000 radio shows in the United States. So it's been impossible to control all of those. The newspaper industry is really critical, too, but it's dying here in the U.S. So,
Bev, you would think, though, that we're heading into an election here in 2010. This is a very important landscape sea change election, at least as the Republicans are talking about it. You would think that they would want to do a little bit more to protect their candidates here.
Well, we'll see. I do think that there's a lot that can be done, and I think we owe a great deal to Dr. Wiesner and his father for doing this lawsuit, because this gives us a lot more teeth. You know, it was easier before for the media to dismiss people who criticize the non-public nature of our elections as saying they're Luddites, they're technophobes, they're afraid of technology. But this decision in Germany is it really gives much more power to the argumentation that we're going to need going into 2010.
We hear this argument very often as well, that opposing e-voting is basically indicating that you are skeptical about technology.
Right.
But we got a lot of support from people who are actually very adaptive to technology. And I think there's a number of very clever IT guys in the U.S. as well who are working on this topic.
Exactly.
And my impression is that
understand it. Right.
The more technical people's background actually is, the more concerned they are about this type of technology. Because in the end, from an IT perspective, it's very easy to build a machine that counts votes. It's not a tough technical problem, but it's hardly impossible, if not impossible at all. It's very unlikely that somebody's able to build a machine that is counting secret votes and able to prove it counted correctly. So the combination of the secrecy of the vote and the proof that you count correctly, that's something that's impossible to implement, I believe. And
one
that's
of the things that you're saying here is that it may help us to gather together technical folks who understand the public nature of it, and quite often when we gather together technical folks in the U.S., they want to invent a new system, electronic system, and then sell it. It's amazing how my email will be, they'll see this problem, and then they'll say, oh, I can invent a system. We may need to go up a level to the level of technologists who understand that you can't invent a system to make it secure from its own administrator tampering with it.
And available to citizens to be able to see it. And to me, elections shouldn't be about experts. It should be about citizens seeing their votes counts, and we've lost sight of that. We have experts in charge of everything in our country. And look at the state of affairs we're in right now.
Good
Experts don't have all of the answers, and we've come to depend on them to be citizens for us. And I think outsourcing our duties as citizens is a big mistake, and it's caused this problem to get to the level it's at right now. And because our government is unresponsive as a result to our complaints, is why we're 6 years still fighting this, and Dr. Wiesner was able to get a response in about a year.
Well, I also think he framed the issue correctly from the get-go.
Well, even if we did that here, Bev,
here,
I still think we wouldn't win. I still don't think we'd win. We'd have to build a heck of a lot more critical mass support for the public count by the citizens and get them to recognize you have to get involved in this. You can't wait for someone else to do it for you. And I think that we have to recognize that we do have a system that is somewhat corrupt on many levels, and to try to treat it as if it's not is another mistake to go at it in a conventional way.
It should also be in the interest of politicians and of government that elections are transparent, because it's the basis for the legitimation, and no politician and no government can have the interest that somebody can claim that the election result isn't correct and that they have not been elected in a proper manner.